What is up, Comey family? I'm here with the biggest brain on Veve. He doesn't like to be called that, but I think he is. Foster Hilt, man, thank you so much for coming on. We've been meaning to collab for a very long time, and so thrilled that it's finally happened, man. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, man. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, it's funny because IRL we really don't live that far away from each other, and it feels like virtual it should be even easier to do these types of things. But yeah, it's been a minute, man. I'm glad we're finally able to make this happen. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here. It's crazy because like you're only like 4 hours away. I know Superstar Money is like 40 minutes away. And it's just
Right.
like there's so many really good Canadian YouTubers. So, we gotta do some kind of collab, like all of us, like in person one time. That'd be cool.
Dude, that would actually be sick. I think that would be amazing. And realistically, you're right. I think the Canadian content contingent is fairly strong. And we may be a smaller country based on population to our big brothers down south, but we can bring it too. So yeah, man, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, man. So listen, I wanted to kind of jump right into it because all of a sudden one day I see Andrew Jikh does a video on, Vivi and Omi. And then all of a sudden, like a month goes by or something, and then we see that you're like connected with him and like all this stuff. So can you just explain like this story there and like how that all came to be?
Yeah, for sure, man. So I guess really what it boils down to is I won't take any credit for bringing Andre into the community originally. Like that was definitely all him. But he released his first video I think in April of 2021, and it was like Omi to the moon, $150,000 invested, and it was really coincidental because I invested in Omi after doing like several weeks of research the day before he put out that video. And like it's just like the cosmic kind of feeling where you invest in something and then out of nowhere like one of the biggest financial YouTubers on YouTube comes out and makes this video and you're just like yes, like this is exactly, and like he's so articulate the way that he talks about things, and it was just like dude, this guy, like he's reading my soul, like yes, like we're going to the moon, baby. And like it was just awesome. And so I watched that video a bunch. I would use that to like share it with my friends and family to be like, hey, you guys need to invest. And he never really made any content about Vivi or Omi after that. Now, of course, he's not a crypto YouTuber specifically. He definitely doesn't just cover Omi and Vivi. He covers all the financial space. So, I was in the community for a bit. I'd been in for about 6 months. And then a bunch of stuff started happening in the summer of 2021. We started to see a lot more of a bullish outlook on NFTs. We were able to secure, the major licenses. Marvel was an absolutely major one that I know a lot of the OG YouTubers have been speculating about. But then that came out, and then we got comic books as a new vertical, and we, received the first article of MCP. There was just a ton of catalysts that had kind of all came out during that time. NFT values were going up as a whole. We were in a bull market, so everyone was very excited. And so I had started making content, I think, early August of 21. And I had, 700, 800 subscribers, maybe. I had made, 6 videos, but I was really enjoying it. I was getting information out. I was kind of getting to know the community better. And I was trying to think of ways where I could get out information that I was learning to the masses better. Because of course, only having 600 subscribers, you're really not getting that message out to a wide variety of people. And the entire premise was get as many people in as quickly as we can so that no one else misses out on this opportunity. So, I thought of Andre because I had always watched his content anyways. And one night I was literally laying in bed. It was like 10:30 at night, and I was like, how can I like get this information out? And then I was looking up Andre's website, and I was on his website, and it had a business email. And I was like, you know what? Like, what's the harm here? Like, I'm just gonna fire him off an email. And if he doesn't answer, he doesn't answer. It's the worst that happens, right? So I wrote him this email, and I'm sitting there like typing on my phone for like 15 minutes, writing him this whole novel. My wife's like, "What are you doing? Go to bed." And I was like, "Don't worry about it, dear. It's fine." And so I just basically wrote him an email, and I was just like, "Hey, man, this is who I am. This is what my deal is. I invested about $100,000 in this token. You made a video. I was really bullish on it. I've still been in the community. I'm still very bullish on it. And I'm just really excited to let you know all the things that have changed in it or that have happened since your video. And you may want to consider making new content." And I think part of the reason that maybe he responded to me was it wasn't like, "Hey, man, we should do a collab and you should come on my YouTube channel." It was more so like, "Hey, man, here's a bunch of stuff that you just might not be aware of. And I think that you should be aware of it." And I think he kind of liked that approach and that outlook that like I wasn't looking for cloud. I wasn't looking for any of that. And so he responded back to me. And I was I was flabbergasted. Like I remember opening up my email and I actually had to get my wife to like come downstairs. I was like come to, like, is this real? Like, am I like whatever? And yeah, so he sent me his phone number, which was a crazy thing to do to a random person that he had never met before. But hey, all the power to him. And so yeah, so sure enough, next day we're hopping on a Zoom call. And once I kind of get the butterflies out of the way of, oh my gosh, I'm talking to someone that has millions of subscribers on YouTube and who I've been watching. We were able to have a great conversation, and I think we clicked on the investment side, but I think we also clicked personality wise. We got along really well. We were pretty laid back, chill people, and we had like a 3 hour chat. Like it was just great to kind of hang out and vibe with them, and that's kind of how our whole relationship, friendship started. And with that, I was able to kind of continue to get in his ear and kind of let him know things that were coming up as things were happening in the community. And I got to the point where I was just like, listen, man, like if you want to make a video, like I don't need to be in it, but I would be happy to kind of give you all the background and everything that you would need in order to put it together. And he was game. So that's when he started making content. I think he's put out 2 videos now since the one that came out in April, revolving Veve and Omi. And I've really enjoyed them because he comes across as very neutral. He'll present the good side, but he's also a little better than me at presenting the maybe not so good side. And just to kind of let his viewers know. But I mean, those videos were getting, 250,000 views plus, and that's more than all the videos on my channel combined, right? So I was just really happy to see that message was kind of getting out, and I was very grateful. I didn't realize he was going to do it at the time, but he shouted me out at the end of his first video, and I think I doubled my subscriber count in like 24 hours, which was absolutely amazing. And if you guys are watching this right now and you came from Andre, thank you so much for joining me on this journey. It's been awesome to have you on board, and yeah, just a really cool opportunity.
Holy man, what a cool
Yeah.
story. Like, the biggest thing to me is that you came across really selfless, which I think was like one of the best things you could have done. And then from there, the other thing I wanted to say is like, like think about the impact that you had, because potentially Andre might have not put out a second or third video on Veve, but because he saw your passion, because of that email, like there's, maybe a high possibility that like, you're responsible for another 500,000 views to some extent, right?
Honestly, man, like one of the coolest things was because like I sent him that email, and then in that email I linked him one of the videos that I had made recently, and I don't remember which one it is now, but I sent him that video. I was like, hey, you need to be aware of what's happening, here's my video. And then we were talking like several months later, and I made a joke to him about something, and he's like, no, like I watched that video and I've been subscribed to you since you sent me that video. So I mean, I'm not sitting here saying that Andre Jikh watches all my videos, because I really don't think that he does, but it was just cool that he took the time to respond to. And once again, like I don't think I'm a somebody now, but really a nobody then, who he just really, like, he took a shot on me, and yeah, I really appreciated it. And I'm just glad, like, I've had people reach out to me and be like, hey, like, I started following you on Twitter, or I started following you on YouTube because of Andre's video. But I'm just so like happy that his reach is allowing new people to come into the community. And granted, maybe it wasn't at the best time in retrospect, because there was a lot of hype and a lot of excitement about things that were happening in the NFT space. And then of course we hit a global recession, and a bunch of other not so great things happened, which kind of tapered off our growth. And but for the ones that are sticking with it, I'm really happy that they're on that journey with us. And I think it's cool. And and the best part is I'm really not the only one. I know that you have had a pretty awesome collab yourself, and Kyle with Paul Barron. Taps has talked to a couple, very influential people as well. There's just a bunch of content creators in the community. Randy constantly talking with, whales and big individuals. I feel like the best part of our community is really that many of the content creators, like, they're not in it just for themselves, right? And I think that this is an important aspect. And I know a lot of people will hear this and they'll be like, okay, whatever. But like realistically, speaking for myself, like I make $30 to $40 a month on YouTube from making content. Like it's really not like I'm really not going to the bank with it. And it's like, yes, like, right. So really it's about getting the information out to the people that we want to have come into the community, that are like-minded and are passionate about the same things as us. And I think we all recognize that maybe our reach isn't as big as some of these other individuals. Paul Barron, I think, is a 250,000 subs. I think was his name was Morgan, or what was his name again?
Morgan?
Lewis, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, he maybe doesn't have a YouTube channel, but I mean, being the founder of Gymshark and just his reach financially and the connections that he has is massive. And so, and then obviously with Andre with his reach as well, I think it's just about getting the information into the people that maybe aren't around all the time and don't have as much access to it, and making sure that they can disseminate that message. And I don't need credit for it. Like just knowing that it's making the community a stronger place and it's bringing in more people is really enough for me, because that is still how I win, right? Because I am invested in this project at the end of the day. So the more eyeballs that we get on it and the more people that decide for themselves that they like it because of the information that they're receiving, regardless of the source, it is still, we're all winning. And that's all that matters.
And so well said, Foster. And I think the biggest thing too is because we're all so passionate and we're not really trying to get anything out of it, it almost like speaks volumes. And then I think people are like drawn in because they're like, oh, like, these are smaller YouTubers and obviously they're really like gung ho about this project. Let's dive into it. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's why somebody, because I feel like before, you just pay these big influencers, they don't really, like you said earlier, know the extent of the project, know how to really, appeal to the users that are in it every day, as like you and I breathe this stuff. So we can like get the proper message out to the bigger people.
100%, man. No, I agree. And I think, and I just hope that the passion, that people see it. And it's funny because like I deal with people all the time that troll me on social media and like they're like, hey, like this project's not going to do anything and whatever. And like I gotta bite my tongue. I swear my Twitter usage is probably at least 8 to 10 hours a day. But I really do, for the most part, 99% of the community are absolute rock stars, and it's great to have been able to develop and build these relationships with everyone. And I can't wait to start getting out to IRL events and start meeting people in person and taking advantage of getting to know the community even better, and a lot of the things that it has to offer. But the 1% is generally the loudest voice, and when things aren't going the greatest, things are a little bit dissenting and not as positive. But at the end of the day, like it's people that are like-minded, like I look to you and your content and a lot of the other content creators, that it's just like I just love the passion. Like you guys really just keep it going. Like I'm not pumping out content regularly, but like I'll watch other people's videos, and it's just like I just love that everyone's still, even, a year and a half later for a lot of people, still giving it their all and still giving it that energy. And it really just shows me that I'm in the right place. And even if it does take, more years and it doesn't happen overnight, we can enjoy the journey together with people that are passionate and are going to enjoy and reap the benefits of where we're going. So
Right. No, that's really cool, man. And I had a series of questions for you here today because, like I said, I wanted to kind of, I wanted to pretty much challenge you on a lot of the thoughts. And I think we're both obviously academics, I think, in how we kind of approach dialogue. So
yeah.
I feel as though like we're nothing will get heated, but I'm curious to see your side of things.
Are we gonna have to bring in a mediator here? We're gonna have
Yeah,
2 minute windows with rebuttals. Yeah, seriously.
yeah. Yeah. So, I want to start off with the Master Collector program, and I wanted to kind of talk a little like the system level of stuff. And so my kind of contention from the beginning was like, with the Master Collector program, we're going to have a lot of like whales and heavy collectors that are going to get rewarded. And so, the more sets that you have, the more, points that you'll get. And then it'll give you like, a higher percentage of landing a drop as an example, and all these other perks that like, Veve will kind of come out with in the near future. And my big thing is like, if I'm a new user, right, and I want to come into the app, I'm going to look at that and go like, screw this. Like I only have $100 to play with. I have such a low likelihood of landing this drop. And so what I think, the reason I think maybe it's taking more longer or a longer time than maybe the VV predicted to actually get this Master Collector program going is because like they need to appeal to like everyone. Like they need to almost take like a microcosm of society and be like, how can we like appease everyone here so that like everyone wins? And I think like people do not understand the complexity of that. But I know that you've also said like there's other incentives that might come, and I'm just curious to like what you think about that.
Totally, man. So I guess the first part, and this won't be a popular opinion, but you said something there that I think is very interesting. So you said, trying to find a way that everyone can win. And I just want to make it clear that I don't think that everyone will win. And, and that might be hard for some people to hear, and they may not be happy to hear that. But I mean, that's also just life, right? Like, I really don't I personally don't expect to be able to compete with the Dr. Profits and Ray Fixies of the world, right? Like I'm just that's realistic for me. Like the Todd father has like 5,000 collectibles. Like he sold all of his Omi and went all like I don't expect to be able to compete with people like that, right? So you need to first define what your goal is, right? So when they're creating this program and looking to offer incentives for people to get them on board, it's not so much a competition against others, right? Like we see a leaderboard concept, which may be integrated. We saw it with HRO and we see it with other projects. That may be a part of it where, yeah, unless you're a whale, you're not going to achieve those goals. But realistically, it's not about competing with others. It's about bettering yourself and giving you the best opportunities to collect within the means that you have available to you. And what I mean by that is there will be free ways in order to earn master collector points. We already know that in-app engagement, posting on other people's feeds, visiting other people's showrooms, commenting and liking, we know that those features will earn you master collector points. We know that holding sets as well as holding collectibles on a daily basis will earn you master collectors points. So even if you're not someone that has the means to purchase a ton of collectibles, you can still earn points by just going on the app, figuring things out, learning from other people, enjoying other people's spaces. Possibly when renting comes out, you can rent things if you can't afford it, so you can still participate in things, but you're still building up towards something. And I kind of equate it. I don't know if you ever played a lot of mobile phone games. I played a ton of them, and I probably spent way more money than I would like to admit on it. But I play games like Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, and Golf Clash. And the one thing that Golf Clash, I think, did really well. Clash Royale did it well also, is that they would do like a pass system, right? Like a battle pass system. So you would have a free tier where you would earn certain perks and rewards, regardless, as long as you were competing and participating on a regular basis. But then there was also a paid system where you still had to participate and do things, but you may earn better rewards or XP boosts or different things while doing that. So the way that I look at it is, yes, similarly to how only one person can buy the bottom because the theoretical bottom is only one thing, right? You're not going to get to the top. Not everyone, there's going to be one person that's at the top, and it will not be me or you. Like that's just realistic. It probably won't be anyone that's watching this video right now, which is totally okay. But if you can look to achieve the top 6 ranks, let's say, and that gives you free access to MCP Pro, or hey, I really want to get up to a certain amount of points because it gives me access to, this feature or whatever the case may be. So I think when new people are coming in, it's more so going to be about, yes, you're not going to be able to compete at the highest level for things, but is there still something that you're able to do to enjoy the platform to keep you coming back? And that's realistically the thing that's missing on the platform right now, is that outside of doing drops, there is no reason to be on the platform. And so once you overcome that obstacle of giving people a reason to be on the platform, whether it be the new showroom that allows you to visit one another, whether it be, spending a certain amount of time on or interacting with a certain amount of people and getting MCP points, whether it be badges or other free things that you can earn, it's really just going to be about giving people a reason to enjoy their fandom. And realistically, and probably not another popular opinion, MCP is just really something extra to benefit users who are already collecting the fandoms that they enjoy. To me, the collecting aspect was always collect the stuff that you think is cool, hence the 12 Batmans behind me in physical form. And they should become more valuable over time just due to the popularity of those items and the scarcity relative to the amount of users that will be on the platform. If at some time they add additional utility to it, which a project like Bat Cowls is an example we've seen has done a great job of, then it's just going to make those items increasingly more valuable. But I don't think a program like this is going to detract or deter new users. It's just going to give them a goal in order to strive to. If I give you a video game and I've already completed all the achievements, are you as excited to play the video game? Probably not. So it's just everyone's got to start somewhere. Some people will have more advantages than others because they've been around longer. But at the end of the day, we're all working towards the same goal, which is to do the best that we can within our means.
Wow, what a beautiful synopsis there, Foster. I don't know if I have too much to argue with you on that, but I think one thing that I really like that you said is that you can kind of trade in your time. as well for MCP. So like somebody like a Dr. Profit would be like, hey, I'll buy
Yeah.
this. But like, that's another way to kind of climb up the leaderboard as well. So I do like that, like you said, there's still that, accessibility and inclusivity kind of mindset as well from Vivi, that it wasn't just based clearly on the amount of OMI that you have or the size of your bag. So there'll be other ways, which I think is good. But I think, it's nice that you kind of outlined all that, because I think a lot of people were just thinking of it as like big collections will get like the best stuff, as there's just so many other ways to kind of get those points. So I think that's just like a nice thing to remember. And the other thing I want to talk to you about is a lot of people complain to me about the MCP. They're like, "Oh my God, MCP's not coming. We've already got the best IP. We've got Vader. We've got partners. We've got Mickey Mouse in the blockchain, Superman, Batman. Like, what the hell is going to be left to drop? We've got Javante, right?" So this is like a lot of the complaints I get. And then the other thing I think about too, and I'm going to hit you with two things here, is like, will the grails become cheaper and then the shittier stuff become more expensive because people are going to off their grails to get more points to then have more perks, right? So those are a few other things I wanted to throw at you.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess to the first point, I think with the licenses that Vivi has right now, just from Disney alone, they could probably continue to drop higher tier IP valuable items for the next like decade without breaking a sweat, right? Now, is everything that's going to be released on Vivi a grail? Absolutely not. And it's funny because, when we first started, and I know you've been around, just as long as I have, if not longer even, a grail wasn't a term that was thrown around all the time, mid last year, right? Like something would come out and be like, okay, cool. But then like a Walt would come out and be like, hey, this is a grail. Spider-Man Secret Rare came out. Okay, this is a grail. But now it's like the new Star Trek drop will come out. Oh, this is a grail. And it's like, no, no, it's not. Like what where are we getting this from? Like, no, no, it's not. Right. And so I think it's more so now about everyone just like everything's a grail because everyone wants everything to pump and they want everything to become more valuable. Because we lived in a world for the longest time where you would buy something, and especially if it was an ultra rare or low edition or whatever, it would be worth 20x immediately after you bought it. So everyone wants everything to be a grail right now. Not everything on the platform is going to be a grail, but there's still going to be a ton of IP, a ton of categories even that we haven't even seen yet. Think about music, think about sports, think about all these other kind of verticals that we haven't even explored yet that have the potential to have grail or high collectability and high valuable items come out. And so I'm not worried about that aspect of it at all. When it comes to MCP and people dumping their grails for less expensive items so that they can load up, I don't think that the Master Collector program is going to be overpowered to the point where people would be justified in doing that. We saw this when the first two iterations of the MCP came out. The first one didn't reward comic collectors at all. So everyone dumped their secret rare comic books because they're like, there's no point in owning them to go buy collectibles. And then the second one came out and it was like comics OP. You were getting like 6 points per secret rare, which was insane. And so then everyone was pumping up the secret rare prices of the comic books just to be able to sell them at a profit and whatever. So I don't see that being an issue right now because realistically, there will always be a percentage of the community that looks to gamify and take advantage of any arbitrage or any thing that's not level within it. But at the same time, I don't see that happening with MCP so much because you are rewarded for holding the collectibles that you own. And yes, you could sell a Walt and pick up 100 comic books, but the way that they have it designed now is like you get a certain amount of points for a set, you get a certain amount of points for holding one of something, but then as you own more than one, the amount of points that you earn decreases exponentially. So by the time you're at 4 or more of something, you're earning 0.1 of a point. So like, yes, you may earn 10 more points than someone if you sell a Walt and buy a bunch of Squirrel Girl comics. But like realistically, like points are not going to be valuable enough, in my opinion, to justify doing that. Like this is just what people should really be looking at this as is it's a complement to the collecting that you're already doing rather than, hey, I now need to collect because the MCP is in place. And if I don't collect these specific items, then I'm not going to be benefited or rewarded. I hope that kind of clarifies things a bit, but no, at least for me, I may sell some sets for Omi eventually just to arbitrage that opportunity when Omi comes on the platform. But when it comes to just collecting for MCP, like just kind of look at it as something that's available to you to take advantage of for your collecting journey. But other than that, I don't see it serving a huge benefit for people.
That makes good sense, man. Like, why would you sell like a gold brick off for like pennies and then hope that those pennies get you back a gold brick one day, right? Like, you've already
Well,
got it.
yeah, 100%,
Yeah,
man. Yeah, that's a good
yeah,
analogy. I like that. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, right. I feel like that
because
makes
it's golden too. It's
it is gold.
golden. So I
Yeah.
like it. I like it. Yeah.
You're on how many walls now? Your fourth or your third? I
I'm
forget.
at
You got
4.
one for your wife
Yeah.
recently, is it?
Yeah. So I recently bought one for my wife. I bought her birth year. So I had some liquidity that I had been saving up for other opportunities. Well, specifically for AF15 when it was announced. I made sure I was I thought I made myself in a position where I'd be able to afford it. And then, 15,000 was not something that I was going to spend on it at the time. So I also didn't have 15,000. So that was the other issue. But then I saw my wife's birth year listed on the Walt page, and I just wanted to take advantage of that opportunity because she has been instrumental in kind of my ability to be involved in the community and make my channel and participate as much as I do in things. So I've been very grateful to her. She was also very supportive in me me investing our life savings into this project. So that's not a small ask of anyone. So I thought it was the least that I could do, and yeah, so I was happy to be able to do that. And now I'm up to 4, so I will have to buy another another one of those at some point too, I think.
Yeah,
So.
I can't wait to come to your driveway in the Viviverse, and all 4 of those are looking at.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're just gonna be. It's gonna be like just along each side, just a lineup of them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not as long as Dr.Profit's. I think he's gonna have a longer driveway,
yeah.
but
He's a highway man.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
so sick. And so here's the last question I have for you on the MCP, and then we'll kind of get into other things. Is just regarding leaderboards. So I know we'll have like I know like Hero as an example had like the one big leaderboard, but here's an idea that a few people have had that reached out to me was what if they had like multiple leaderboards? So you have like the overall, you have like the Disney, you have even like the Star Wars, you have like the low mints, and then all of a sudden like all these communities start forming in these different areas, which I think would keep the engagement higher. And then you would have different influencers, in my opinion, that would like kind of take to these different areas. And I just feel like it could help grow the ecosystem. But I just wanted to pick your brain on that.
No, actually, that's not something that I've thought about. And I think that's. I mean, I kind of look at it as similar to like a regional leaderboard, right? Like top in Canada or top in whatever. Yeah, that's actually a really great idea. It's something that I hadn't thought of. And like you talk about influencers and other people branching out, and I mean, the Gale is big on Kripkins as an example, which is maybe not one of the most popular IPs on the platform, but I think that would be a great idea. That if you have a leaderboard in a specific category, people may go towards that. And my only thought is, I don't know how. I guess if you're earning maybe MCP points or something that's available across the board, but once again, I the only thing that I could see is that being very easy to manipulate. Because let's say you're going to earn MCP points for being on the top of the leaderboard of X collectible versus Y collectible. It's a lot easier for me to be on the top of the leaderboard of Kripkins, because we already talked about it, versus the
Yeah.
Walt leaderboard, like the Disney leaderboard, right? Like it's just so much easier because the barrier to entry is lower. Now, the argument could be made that now the price of those collectibles is going to go up because more people are going to want to buy those because they're cheaper in order to earn points. But it would just be really interesting just to see how they would balance that or gamify it. I could definitely see a lot of people taking advantage of that opportunity. And even if Veve was able to get kind of involved, and they hold a certain percent back of every collectible. So if they were able to give away collectibles, because they do giveaways anyways, right? So they're able to give away if you're on the top of the leaderboards or whatever. I know HRO is doing that as well with, I think, uncut sheets of cards or whatever. If you were a certain level, I saw Hello K posting about that. So I think that's a fantastic idea. And it's just really, I think just having a leaderboard alone would drive millions of dollars of liquidity into the platform because, like I said, the Dr. Profits and the Ray Fixies of the world, like, when you have that much money, it's more so about your social identity and the flex of what you own. And there's nothing that's a bigger flex than being on the top of a leaderboard. Even if, like, I remember like people, like I remember back in the day, like watching Call of Duty YouTubers, and they would play like 14 hours a day just to like try and grind for points to be on the top of the leaderboard. So I think if you give people that ability with leaderboards, and I really like that idea of rewarding not just the people that have necessarily the most money, but maybe people that are very passionate about a specific fandom. If it's the DC Black and White series or Powerpuff Girls, like just anything. I think that's a great idea.
Sweet, man. I'm glad to hear that. I know that, like, you know, because I just was thinking about it recently and I was like, man, I just feel as though like I can't win, like you said, against the big boys. But hey, maybe if there's like a specific area and there's enough of a niche, like, you know, one thing I was thinking about recently too, and I wanted to bring this up was sub 40 minutes. Because back in the day, as you know, they only had this, they released 16 to 40 was like available to the public. I forget when it
Yeah.
ended, but like PP1, you know, the first black and white series, and maybe even the second Adventure Time, all that stuff has like
Yep.
the number 16 to 40 men. You know, imagine what a flex it would be to be like, you know, I have 7 sub 40 minutes as an example, right? Like,
That'd be crazy. And I do wonder eventually if they'll auction them off or what they'll do with them. Because I do know obviously a certain percentage of them goes to the licensor, a certain percentage goes to Veve. I think all the number ones are going to go in like the City Hall Museum in the Veveverse, I think is what they've said. So it'll be like a number one showroom, which I think one day it'll be worth at least $1 billion. Like you just think about where this platform is going, and the number ones is just absolutely absurd. So maybe David, I can convince him to give me the keys to that at some point, but don't know how we'll manage that one. But yeah, no, it's crazy. And I do think, and you know, it was interesting because you were saying like, I even thought of something when you were saying like, hey, I'm not going to win against the big boys when it comes to spending the most money. But you know, we talk about earning points for MCP based on engagement. What happens if you're on a leaderboard for, you know, most consecutive days logged in, or you know, like even something like that, right? So like you can still add leaderboards for things that don't necessarily have to cost. The thing about like poker tournaments, like poker sites will have free roll tournaments, right? Like there's no reason we can't have leaderboards for things that are free, right? Like there doesn't necessarily need to cost you money in order to earn this. So you know, most showrooms viewed in a day, or like little competitions and things to add engagement and want people to enjoy and be on the platform, I think is enough to really bolster what we have going. So
man, that's such a good point too, because I always forget about like the vaultaholics that go in there and make the
yeah, man.
craziest showrooms and like spend like literally like a day sometimes, if not more, just creating these elaborate showrooms. And imagine, like you said, you know, the amount of views for $1 a day. You're making like, I don't know, 2 grand a day just from people viewing your showroom. So there's just so many ideas. And I think that's what's crazy is like, you know, what's actually gonna come to fruition, and is it going to be way more basic than we're like, because I feel like that's a lot of work. Like, I mean, I don't know if they have, like, I know they have a lot of employees in the background, but I mean, this is not meta here with like 10,000 plus
Yeah.
employees, right?
Well, and I think that brings up a great point, and I don't know if it was a question on your list or not, but like
Yeah.
Vivi's ability to third party contract out work is massive. You know, being able to work with, you know, gaming studios and design studios to build their collectibles and you know, take advantage of that type of stuff. Like I think they probably run a pretty lean ship compared to, you know, some other companies, but at the same time, you know, I think they really do have a lot of people behind the scenes that are working on their behalf to kind of put all of this together. And I actually, for a while, I had to stop watching Cavell Anderson's videos because like I just watched and I'd be like, oh my god, Vivi's gonna be Fortnite. Like it's gonna be Fortnite, guys. Like I'm gonna be doing this. It's gonna be amazing. And then I was just like, oh, be realistic. And like not saying that Cavell's not realistic, but I'm just like, oh, like don't get too excited because you're setting yourself up for failure. Like, just it got me so excited, man. I'd always watch his videos and just be like, yes, like this is happening. So no, it's going to be really interesting to see what they build out, and I really do think that you know, coming into Q4 this year and into the beginning of 2023, I think we're going to see a lot of things pop up that are going to excite and delight a lot of people.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Like renting and burning.
Renting and burning, yeah. Hopefully, yeah, that could be one of them. Yeah, well, that could be
Yeah,
one of them. Yeah.
I keep thinking about it. I'm like, you know, there's obviously a few different, you know, schools of thought on this. Like with the, especially with the renting aspect, people are like, you know, what is the incentive for me to rent? And I gave a few, like as an example was like, what if you needed like a Rizzo to get like the final ultra rare, for instance, the black and white series that like was limited to 1,000 editions. You can rent a Rizzo out, you know what I mean? Another example is like, you know, different geolocation stuff in the metaverse. I mean, there's so many things that we can go on why you would want to rent. Maybe there's the gamification, you need to rent it in order to make money. So there's a lot of like things that we can talk about. But then it's like that's a lot of like work, and that's a lot of things that like I feel like it's really long term when I think about it. So, you know, is this like something that people could actually make a living off if they have like a pretty solid collection? Or is this kind of like more this like fanatical idea that's like, you
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a great question, and I am really interested to see how all of this is going to kind of play out. I think what I would offer more so than, you know, is renting going to, you know, make people a bunch of money and stuff. I mean, it's really impossible to say, but what I will say is David Yu, when he was at London Decon, did like a 1 hour impromptu AMA. I watched the entire thing. And within that AMA, he mentioned that Veve's goal is not to have 1 million users or 2 million users, even. Their goal is to have 50 to 100 million users one day. Now, whether that takes 10 years, 20 years, whether it never happens, I have no idea. But even if they hit 5 million users or 10 million users, we maybe have 250,000 right now, realistically. There are only ever going to be 1,000 Secret Rare Spider-Mans, 1,750 Rizzos, 4,333 Waltz, so on and so forth. Even for collectibles that maybe don't seem super appealing right now, there's still only going to be 6,000 of those, 10,000 of those, whatever, right? So right now, it doesn't seem that appealing because no one really sees a reason to own it. There's no utility for the collectibles. MCP isn't out yet. This is still kind of a new space. And like you said, there's really not, you're not using them in the VV-verse. You're not, you don't need R2D2 at this point to go to Disney-verse inside of the VV-verse, right? Like, you don't need that right now. And maybe you never need it. But when you do need it, and there's 10 million people, 0.0001% of all of the people on the platform are going to be able to own one, right? So Walt, there's 4,000 of them. I own 0.001% of all the Waltz that will ever exist, right? Is that going to make it valuable one day? I have absolutely no idea. But what I do know is that 10 years ago, the concept of Bitcoin was pretty crazy. And guys, I'm not comparing Walt to Bitcoin. Don't freak out. But there's only 21 million Bitcoins that will ever exist. And when they were $1, people thought that it was ridiculous. When it was $100, people thought it was ridiculous. And then it hit $64,000. And people still thought it was ridiculous. So if you think Bitcoin one day that has 21 million could hit $1 million a token one day, then I know that there's probably more than 4,000 people in the world that are going to want the first ever Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse on the blockchain.
Right.
I could be wrong, right? But and so like
when you put it like that, it feels like you're.
But you know what? But you know what I mean? Like when people are like, yeah. Disney has 9.8 million followers on their Twitter. Yeah. There's 4,000 of these. That's one for every 5,000 people. So it's just like when you start to like really factor it in, it's like, oh, like, will this be valuable? I have no idea. I could be completely wrong and all of this could go to zero. And if that happened, then that just happens. I have no control over it. But what I do have control over is knowing that Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse was valuable long before I came along and will likely be valuable long after I disappear. So will renting be valuable? If there's a reason to have the collectibles, 100% yes. And on top of that, there will be competitions for who can rent it. Because if music comes out as a vertical, let's say, and you get a deal with Justin Bieber, another Canadian lad, which is why I said him. And he's going to host a concert in the VV-verse. But you can only go if you own his LP that is not released, but that you bought it on VV, right? And there's 20,000 copies. I'm sure there's more than 20,000 Justin Bieber fans in the world, right? So I don't care about going to Justin Bieber concert, but someone else does. And I'm sure that I could rent my LP out to them so that it's there on the snapshot date so that they get that ticket and they can go to that concert. Or I just keep it and I get the ticket and then I sell it. And it's still kind of a form of renting, right? So it's, renting is really just a form of utility rather than the utility being renting. So when you look at it that way and you go, yeah, this just gives me the opportunity. Like, why do people fractionalize ownership for things? Like Kyle bought one of the first, like he got on that Logan Paul fractionalized ownership Pikachu card that he owns, the Illustrator. Yeah. Why do people do that? Because there's value in it. Like, I don't need to understand it. I don't need to like it. I don't need to agree with it. But the fact of the matter is there's value in it and people will find value in it. I don't understand OpenSea. I've never bought an NFT that's not on VV because I don't understand JPEGs. I don't understand doodles and all that. Like, I just don't. And maybe you guys are like, oh, he's an idiot. I understand that. And that's totally fine because you get it and there's a community built around it. I don't need to understand anything that's on VV because it's licensed IP and there's a group of people somewhere that are going to be passionate about it. And those are the people that are going to come in and they're going to make those items valuable. It's just about getting, once again, the information out to the people that need to hear it so that they can come in and learn about the project, which is like what I think we're doing here today and why I'm excited to be talking about it.
Wow. See, this is why I called you the biggest brain on one thing, even despite renting, that you said that just kind of like the way you explained it or the way that you framed it really hit me was just the fact that like there's hundreds of millions of Disney fans. They all pass the partner statute. And like if we do get to those numbers that David Yu is talking about, then only like, 0.01% of the actual users would be able to own the wallet. And like the clout, like just by having one NFT, that's like that is that grand in that specific area is amazing, right? So like even now some things that we're kind of overlooking, like maybe like Ultraman as an example, or things like that are not a big deal now, maybe that is a big deal if we do hit those figures, and that's the FA that we're talking about. So I feel like it's exactly what you explained earlier. It's so funny because when everything was going in that bull market, people are like, I'm happy to spend $10,000 on the Steamboat Willie. I'll spend 18,000 on Pride. And now it's like, hey, it's $600 and $800, and it's like, oh, I'm not going to touch it. And it's like, well, what changed other than the market sentiment, right?
Oh, it's and I'll be honest, because I think a lot of people know that have followed my journey. Like this is really my first foray into like major investing. I understand personal finance. I did all of that kind of stuff in school and whatever, but realistically, like I understood enough about Veve and Omi over time to invest in it. And it's just like 18 months later, I'm still learning every single day. And I still continue to learn things to just make me more and more bullish. And my only regret is buying in too early, too quickly, and running out of money to not continue to be able to buy more now is really what it is. Because you're 100% right. Like I wasn't in a position, nor would I've wanted to buy a Pride at $15,000-$20,000, but like it hit like $1,000. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, and not to say that just because something went up means that it will go up again. And I think that that is an important conversation to have as well, and for people to be aware of. I think that, a lot of people just assume that like, hey, something hit something before, so it's guaranteed to do it again. And I think that that's always been and I don't know if this is a question of yours, so I apologize if I'm jumping on it, but people will always ask me like, do you like Omi more or do you like Veve more? And my answer is always something similar to, I like Omi more, but Veve is the vehicle that allows Omi to be successful. So for me, yeah, I own 110 sets and 600 collectibles and have been very fortunate to be able to build up a fairly significant collection on Veve. But realistically, my money, literally and figuratively, is being bet on the Omi token, because I still believe that the biggest issue surrounding Veve is if it does not receive the mass adoption that we're hoping that it does, it'll still burn Omi tokens, because every transaction that takes place in Veve will eventually burn Omi tokens directly from the circulating supply. That's a foregone conclusion. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And I'm sure when the Omi utility program is released in a few weeks, we will see something to that effect. But when it comes to Veve, is the 15th version of Mickey Mouse going to be as valuable as the first version of Mickey Mouse? We've already seen like 20 Harley Quinns come out on the platform. And does every subsequent one that comes out dilute not only the market cap of every other collectible, but the value of those items, right? And so this has always been I don't want to call it a fear, because I still very much do believe that Veve will get some form of mass adoption and that a ton of people will come in and it won't matter. But it's very hard to say, whether a lot of these collectibles will be popular long term, where if we have 5,000 different sets on the platform, what differentiates your edition number from your set versus something else, right? So that's why, for my purposes, I've always focused on, Disney golden moments, put a huge emphasis on Walt, because I believe that it'll be the most valuable golden moment. The Batman Black and White series, I have every single collectible from the Batman Black and White series, including the Series 1 Rizzo, and I have 2 Todd digitals.
Yeah,
and so I've always focused on those types of things. So what?
Sorry, I just cut you off because I was like, yeah, you got 2 Todd digitals, but I'm like, you got the 12 physicals or whatever.
I don't know if you saw on Twitter earlier today, but someone commented on my last YouTube video. He's like, I like you, but I find the Todds that you have are very obnoxious. If they were digitals, I don't think I would feel this way, but I just wanted to let you know. And I was like, So now collecting physical collectibles is obnoxious. So like you heard it here, guys. Like if you don't collect digital collectibles and you have physical collectibles, you're obnoxious. So
Yeah,
just know that. So is what it is.
that's
So
pretty funny. But
yeah,
the question is like, what's unlikely to repeat for these NFTs? Because I do think that the market cap does get diluted to a certain extent. Not
yeah,
saying it fully does, but I mean, like, if there was only one Spider-Man to 1,000 editions, who knows where that would be, right? And it's like, that's what I think everybody loves about Walt is that there's, even though there's 4,333, there's really nothing else like it. Like even the
exactly.
Disney D, like just the D alone, because it was modeled after his handwriting, people like were already freaking out about that. And I was like, wow, that's like a really big extension
Yeah,
of Walt and Mickey. And it's also the fact that they're intertwined together. I'm not trying to
yeah,
pump Walt, no, not financial advice, but I think this is literally what I think about all the time, Flash. And that's kind of the purpose of I think a lot of these YouTubers is like, okay, what does the long-term projection look like?
yeah.
And are we really just a big toy store? Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of people just say, oh, well, we're a toy store that just happens to be digital. And like a lot of the hype and stuff is like way over the top. And I'm like, well, no, because I'm like, even like the first action figure of Darth Vader is still going to be like exceptionally expensive. So that's why I think like the FA thing is almost like a safeguard for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, to your toy store comment, I think, we really frame ourselves as digital collectibles. So it's easy to see it as like, oh, it's just a gimmick and whatever the case may be. And I think the major differentiation in that people, are learning about now over time is, and I think one of the reasons that Q3 is going to be so big for the company is that, metadata is going to start to come out and people are really going to be able to see for the first time that they truly do own these collectibles. And really how I look at it is, I play Rocket League and I play, Call of Duty and these types of things. And you can buy skins and, cars and all these things on these platforms, but you don't own these items. You pay for them, but literally if you read the terms of service, it says, Activision Blizzard or Nadeo or any of these companies from these games, like they own your account essentially and they can do whatever they want, right? Now certain games and platforms have resale markets. CSGO as an example has like a market where you can resell your skins and do things like that. Rocket League, you can trade items in that, but you really can't prove immutable ownership on these platforms. So I think the exciting concept of NFTs is really being able to prove that ownership to people. And yes, even if these are toys, if that's how you want to frame them, like if Pokemon is released and we get Pokemon action figures or cards, not a confirmation of Pokemon, but if I own a Pokemon card and it's in a sleeve and I can't do anything with it, then what value does it hold? Sure, I can look at it. And that's why, especially, and I think, I think Gary Vee has touched on this and, a lot of other people have as well, but just the concept of your digital identity being the framework of who you are kind of in this next generation is going to be to a level we've just never seen it previously. And what I mean by that is prior to COVID, you know, people with millions of followers on social media and all this are like it happened, but it was very few and far between. And then we had COVID happen where, people who wanted to spend out time outside and, did outdoor activities and whatever, like you were very limited to what you had the ability to do. So what people started doing is they started turning in their own homes and got sick of their family and their friends that were able to come over and they turned to a digital platform, right? So whether it be Facebook or whether it be Instagram, TikTok or whatever, and people started to curate their digital identity on these platforms. And the great thing about having a digital identity is that it's so much more accessible to the masses. And what I mean by that is I have all of these taunt statues behind me. I have a couple other action figurines. I have this baseball here, which is signed by the 1993 World Series champion Toronto Blue Jays,
Yes,
which is really
sir.
cool. But if I want to show you this, I can show it to you on a screen, but you have to come over to my house. This is the only way you get to see these things, right? So how many people do you have come over to your house on a regular basis? Probably not that many. Whereas I can take my digital Walt statue, and when metadata is available and profile picture integration is available on these major social networks, I can now display to my combined 15, 16,000 followers on my different platforms that I own this collectible, which, I'm not really a big personal owner, but what about someone like Andre Jikh, who has millions of followers combined? What about someone like Ronaldo, who's a big Batman fan, right? Or is it Neymar or Ronaldo? Who's one
Neymar,
of those
yeah.
guys. Neymar that loves Spider-Man. And, so you start to think about these things. What happens when Tom Holland buys a Spider-Man and wants to display it and whatever, right? So it's just, you start to look at the digital identity. It's people that have hundreds of thousands, millions of followers. It's your artists, it's your entertainers, it's your athletes, it's the social media personalities. All of these people are going to want to curate their digital identity. We saw it already. Jimmy Fallon, Paris Hilton, all of these people, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, that bought Bored Apes or were sponsored by Bored Apes, whatever. They're curating their digital identity that is being displayed to millions and millions of people. And that's all that, and it won't be all collectibles necessarily, but everyone finds a fandom somewhere on Veve. And that's what's great about Veve. Their literal slogan is whatever your fandom, Veve has you covered. And when you think about that, you're like, maybe I'm into Powerpuff Girls and like, whatever, I want to make Bubbles my display picture. And I can verify that ownership of that collectible and display it to all my followers. And whether you have one follower, no followers, a million followers, it really doesn't matter. It's about curating that social identity. And it's going to be really the next kind of realm of this collectability and this value that comes from what Andre calls them as Bevelin goods, which are just really items that no one else can really afford to own, but that you own as a social flex. And the best way to flex something socially is to do it by proving that you own it. Because we see with social media influencers and people all the time, you can post a picture beside a Lamborghini. Doesn't mean that you own a Lamborghini, right? Like you could see one on the street, take a picture beside it, but I can't fake owning something that has immutable ownership on a public blockchain. And I think that to me is what's exciting and what gets me passionate about this project is because, like I said, even if I don't care about something specifically, I can be sure that because this IP, whatever it is, has withstood the test of time, someone out there does care about it and will want to buy it and display it.
Wow, man, you got my brain percolating here. This is a lot of good points. So, perfect example of that is like I always said to people back in the day, they're like, you should have went for the common Spider-Man because it was $25, and then you should have and they all went to 800, right? I bought the secret rare, like I could have bought two at the time, but I bought one for 17K. And this was back in I think December. But my reasoning for that was similar to what you said, because I said if Neymar or just one person picks it up and like what you're talking about with metadata and showing that like on the public blockchain that you're seeing
Yeah.
that Neymar has bought it, right? And then he goes and everyone's like, okay, there's whatever, 45 million eyes just on his Instagram seeing that he's bought this Spider-Man. All of a sudden I've got one and I go, oh shit, I've got one too. I put that on my display. I'm going to be picked up in the fire. You know what I mean? And I'm going to be like, yeah, oh, what up, Neymar? Like, you know what I'm trying to say? And people be like, oh, this guy
100%.
has it too. And so it's like, if you have something that is exceptionally scarce, rare, popular, all that stuff, I just see it being in such demand if it does turn out the way that we see it, right? Like, I think we
Yeah.
both have that vision. And you know what's funny is like, even when you joined and I joined around the same time, I was March 2021.
Okay. Yeah.
And when I saw this, I was like, man, like I had a vision of like it being huge. And then like little did I know they would sign Disney and Marvel and all this crazy shit happened. And so it's like we're really halfway there in a sense. Like we already had that vision and like what's the next iteration from here, right?
Well, and that's it. And I mean, for those of you that get the opportunity and have the free time, like I said, like when you talk about the vision and just being passionate about something, like if you ever get a chance to listen to David Yu speak, who's for those of you that don't know, the CEO of Ecomi, it just the passion surrounding it is just like you just listen to him and it's just like he just draws you in. You just want to listen to everything that he has to say, and you're just like you have a plan. And that's what I love about this project the most is like they are, and I'll be the first to admit it, they're not the greatest at delivering on timelines. Granted, they've bungled that a lot, but they do deliver. And I think that that's the important distinction that people need to be aware of is like if you understand the vision of where this could go, and even if it doesn't hit, the $10 price point that you want for Omi, and Walt maybe doesn't hit $1 million like you hoped that it would, there's really no denying that on the balance of probabilities, this project will be successful. And in large part, that's due to the leadership team that they have. They're not always perfect, and they do quite often make mistakes. They're human, just like, you, me, Chad, anyone else. But at the same time, it's like, it just gets me so excited to listen to them. And I'm just like, you guys have the master plan, you got the key. And like, what really got me is like little things that maybe people don't pick up on immediately, but like Disney signed with Veve in 2018. And people don't really realize that and conceive and understand what that means. Understand that Reese Skellern, who's the communications manager for Ecomi, didn't even see the platform, the actual Veve app, until weeks before it launched in 2020, at the end of it. And he was their communications manager putting out this information. Talk about the amount of faith that he needed to have in the team that they were going to deliver in order to have all those conversations with people, having not even seen it himself. The fact that companies like Disney, who were in talks with Veve in 2018, waited until 2021 to actually start to roll this out, it just goes to show you that, I think as people, we're very tied into things, and we're very, narrow focused, where it's like, hey, this happened today, or this announcement came out. Hey, I'm not happy about this. And you forget the kind of long-term vision that really exists in a project like this. And I'll admit it, when I first came into the project, I was a straight up moon boy. I was like, yo, I invested. Day later, Andre puts out a video. We're going to the moon, baby. Like, I'm telling all my friends, like, yo, you need to get in on this. Like, I remember sitting in a parking lot with two of my colleagues at like 11:30 at night one day in April, and Omi hit 0.0095. So it almost hit a penny. So it had already done its all-time high, and then it was down. I got in at about 0.007, and it was coming back up. And I was like, boys, we need to get you an account tonight before it hits a penny, because once it hits a penny, we're gone, baby, we're gone. And they're like, oh, and we're all like freaking out trying to get them signed up for Bit4X. And it's just funny to look back on those times, because like the conviction really hasn't changed, but it's just the outlook and the time frame in which we're going to get there in, right? And so I still get excited thinking about those times. I still get excited thinking about the future now, but I also feel like I'm more realistic and grounded about what we will accomplish and the timeframes in which we'll accomplish them in. And so I'm just really looking forward to the journey, man. Like it's just cool to see where we've come. And I mean, you were here, market was down for a month. We had one drop every 2 weeks, app super buggy and laggy, like no announcement of Marvel, no announcement of Disney, no USPS, Givenchy, like all of these partnerships, like we were here before like there was really any reason to be here. And like, so now it's cool to like look back on it, and like I see people complaining all the time on social media, and it's just like, you don't get it. Like you really don't get like how far we've actually come. And like in crypto terms, we're slow, but in business terms, they actually move pretty quickly. So like it's pretty cool to see like how cash out was never a part of the plan. And when I say that, people always freak out. Omi to NFT was always going to be the model that they were going to use for cash out. There was going to be a cash out, but they realized having a stable coin, or a gem in this instance, would be better. So they integrated that. And to get a global money transmitter license takes like 24 months plus, like 2 years. And so they overshot when they thought they were going to be able to deliver it, because they announced in March, like, oh, we'll have cash out in a few months. And lo and behold, it took like a year and a half. But realistically, outside of their terrible timeframes, they actually accomplished something that takes a long time in a very short period of time relative to the scope. So I think when they really started to change their communication around, delivering on priorities, I think we've seen a drastic improvement. And, seeing MTL cash out come out when they said that it would, if we do see MTP and OUP come out in the next couple of weeks, like it's just a bunch of positive catalysts. And I'm really excited to see kind of where it goes from here.
Wow, brilliant, man.
Sorry, I get excited, man. Like I just and like and like I really hope that people realize that, right? Like I feel like I try and be as like transparent as possible. Like, I'm a 31-year-old dude, like got a wife, got a kid, like got a job, like, I'm just a dude, right? I'm just like a talking head on a screen. And like, I just feel like so fortunate to like have been able to like develop the relationships that I developed. Like even like going to New York, like last month, and meeting Randy in person was like a fanboy moment for me. I was like, oh, so cool, man. And like, I can't wait for us to do like meetups and things like that. Like, I just love being a part of this journey. And like people like think that I'm trying to sell them a bag of goods or whatever. And it's like, it's cool. Like everyone's entitled to their opinion, but like, I'm just so excited, man. I just can't wait to be able to look back again in another year and be like, yo, like we didn't see this coming, and like it happened, and they just knocked it out of the park, and I
Man,
can't wait.
it's so true. It
Yeah,
like the biggest thing too is like I think for you as well, it started as like just passion. Like it was just like, how do I get the word out there to kind of like help
yeah,
the conversation and the growth? And I was like, obviously we are both invested, but it's just funny because like you said it perfectly before, was like there was no really reason to be there, but yet we were there. And like I just remember when I bought Omi, I actually bought a 0.0027 originally in March. Like, and I was
oh
doing the same
wow,
thing as you. I was looking for like the low cap like
yeah,
coins that were gonna moon. And I didn't give a shit about Omi. I didn't even know what VV was. I just bought I put 5 grand
yeah,
into it because I had like all these shit coins that I was just putting all this money into. I was
nice.
like, hey, one of these is gonna pop. And then
Damn, and it like 5x for you then, I guess.
yeah, it went from 5K to like 27 or 28 grand. And then I used a lot of that money to go buy VV NFTs.
Oh no,
So that's where I kind of like then I was like looking at Todd for 79 bucks. I think I told you, but I bought like 18. And I was just like, I now looking back, I could have bought like 150. You know what I mean?
yeah, oh yeah,
It's so hard to look back and be like, oh man, like the things that you could have should have done. But again, like, when I showed everybody this platform, people were laughing at me, like, you just bought
yeah.
this digital thing for eight, like
You're
you're
crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
My friends still think I'm crazy. Well, and talk about looking back on things, and I always bring this up in interviews because I really have no shame. But like,
yeah.
so you're telling me that selling Spider-Man for $1,600 was probably not the best idea? Is what
So
you're saying?
I'll just
Probably
be
the
honest on
hindsight.
that. Like, so I had my wedding, right? And then I had my friend's bachelor and all this stuff. And then that was the same time as last year. It was like August, September time. It was like the
Yeah,
low period, right? And so I was like selling off like because I had all this shit. I had like 3 or 4 Spider-Man secret rares. I had like a golden Moogly. I had like 3 Rizzos, Javonche. Like I had just a bunch of stuff. Like looking back now, if I would have just waited till February, I
yeah,
probably would have made like I don't know, at least half a million, like just in like all my collectibles. But I just like the
yeah,
timing wise was just like poor. But it was also like my wife was like, okay, we're not going to go into our savings to pay for a wedding. And I was like, well,
yeah,
I don't want to sell these NFTs. And she's like, are you
yeah.
fucking kidding me?
Yeah,
Like, just
seriously. You've
selling
already
right
made
now.
money on them, sell them. You
Yeah.
know what, man? And that's the thing. Like it's so easy to look back and be like, oh, this was so obvious at the time. But
Yeah.
realistically, like, I was the same issue, like didn't have liquidity to keep collecting. And so, Spider-Man was going to be my biggest gainer. So it made sense to sell it at the time. And then obviously seeing it hit 6 figures, I'll admit it hurt a little bit, but at the same time, like if it was easy, like it wouldn't be nearly as rewarding. Like I know when we get to where we're going and whether it takes 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, whatever, like it's going to be so much more rewarding to know that like it wasn't just like, oh, it went straight up and you didn't like no, like there was struggle, there was missteps, there was
Yeah.
mistakes, there was what it is. So it's just going to be, I just think it's going to be like you want it to be worth it, you know what I mean? And so like I don't think anyone's made the perfect decisions, and I think if anyone says that they have the whole time, then I guess kudos to you. But it's just, yeah, man.
Yeah. And I think the thing that, like you said it perfectly too, is like for those 7 or 8 months, everyone was just like, it's going to moon, it's going to moon. I'm like, I've been here. It's not mooning. You know what I'm trying to say? I was like, this is probably going to level out somewhere. And then all of a sudden, like, it just crept up so quickly.
Yeah.
But it was funny because then I had to go buy one back at like, 10x the price. So I had to like, and I had to make all these moves during Disney week. Like it was a flipping game, man. But
Oh,
you know what? It's just like you said, it's the biggest part is the journey and the knowledge.
mhm.
And I think the bigger thing that I didn't realize that would come out of it is like a brand. Like even as small as I might be, it's still like cool to actually have like a place in the community and like a theme and a vision that people can get around. So it's kind of
Dude, no, man, you've been crushing it. A ton of people have done a really good job of kind of building a brand and marketing themselves and kind of garnering a following based on that. And I'm not naive to believe that a decent percentage of my following came from having Andre make the videos and whatever. And I'm kind of known as like the Andre guy, I guess, or whatever. So I guess that's my branding or whatever. But like
I wouldn't say
I
that.
think it's fantastic that so many people are building communities. The superstars are crushing it with their community.
All right.
Dino's got his egg gang. You got your own branding, comics and crypto, sleeping comics. Like a ton of people just have this brand around them that I think is fantastic, and I think that it will allow them to grow and take advantage of these opportunities. For me, like I've always just kind of maintained that like if I don't have something to talk about, like if I'm not gonna like if there's not something happening that I think is pertinent and usually specifically to Omi, I really don't make content because like for me, I have a lot of stuff that goes on like IRL that I need to focus on, like with my
Yeah.
family and my job. So, you know, I'm really grateful and happy to see so many people succeeding, and like there's people that started making YouTube content after me that have more subscribers than me now, and I'm like, fantastic. Like I love that you guys are succeeding, and there's people that put out like 2 videos a day and like doing all this crazy stuff, and I'm just like, cool, man. Like, and at the end of the day, like what people don't realize is like there's never going to be enough content creators for the amount of people that are going to come into this community. And like everyone is going to find like people that they mesh with and like people that they vibe with, and like they'll hang out with them. And like if you're looking for like a laid back stream about like XYZ, you'll go like check out Randy, or like, hey, if you want to go check out like information about like specific collectibles, like maybe you go check out like Comics and Crypto. Like maybe you just want to like do drop day vibes, you'll hang out with like Johnny Dunn or Veve Vault or whatever. And like there's just so many different options and groups of people that you can hang out with. So, and I love that people like will consume multiple people's content. And like I really don't feel like there's a ton of like dissent within the community. Like I think all the content creators for the most part get along really well, and I think we all like support each other's growth and success. Like I really love that I don't feel like it's cutthroat. Like I don't feel like I'm like, oh my god, something just happens, I have to get out my video before Chad because he's gonna beat me. And
True.
then
That's a
you
good
like I just don't care, you know what I mean? So it's like, you want to watch the content, you watch the content, you find it valuable, awesome, I'm really glad to hear it. And if you don't, like that's totally okay too. So I just like that the community continues to grow and that more people are inspired to make content and put out, you know, their opinions and stuff. So because that's how we grow, right? Like I told you before we started this video, like I didn't want you to just agree with everything that I said, right? It's just like if I'm wrong about something or you disagree with something, like cool, like that's great, like that's how we grow, because that's where the ideas and the conversation stem from. So
That's a good point. Like we keep like, and the thing is too, a lot of the new YouTubers that come and bring new ideas and they're like challenging old ideas and just keep refining and like moving that needle forward on everything. Cause like,
yeah,
like one thing that Superstar Money kind of hit me with the other day, I was on his interview with Johnny Dunn and we did a live
right.
and he talked about mint to play. And he was like, oh, one thing is like everybody talks about interoperability on VB and how that's such a deterrent if we don't get there and you can't take your AF15 and put it in a cold storage, whatever. And then, he brought up the concept of like, oh, well, if like there's a Marvel Mighty game and you purchased a Marvel Mighty on VV, you might actually just get a code for like a free character in that game, which other people might spend like $40 on or whatever. But because you have that thing, that NFT, and he's like, that's just one aspect of it. He's like, it can go to like 100 other things potentially, or games come in, and it's a great way to leverage VV NFTs because then you would be notified about their new game. So like if we're a new game developer, you and I would be like, man, okay, there's these Marvel Mighties, let's do something around them, and then we'll just let VV know, then they'll advertise it to their 50 fucking million users. You know what I'm trying to say? Like people don't really see that far ahead. And it's
Yeah. No, man, and I love that perspective, and I think that is a great one that they brought up. And people don't realize like it could be something as simple as like similar to the like MetaMask, how like it allows you to like link a wallet or like give permissions for stuff. Like it can simply be like something as simple as like, hey, Marvel releases a Marvel Mighties game that's like a standalone, but if you link your VV wallet and it can confirm that you have a token ID for a specific collectible in your wallet, then it just gives you access to that character. Because realistically, a lot of the stuff that's on VV right now will likely not be like, if there is avatars and things and an ability to use your characters. Like if you own, a Walt statue, like you're probably not gonna be able to walk around as Walt as an example. Maybe that's a bad one, but like Spider-Man, you own Spider-Man, right? Like it does one animation, but it's probably not built for you to be able to walk around with it, right? But if it can just prove that you own that token within your wallet, then it'll give you access to that character within the game. Whereas, like you said, you would either have to rent it or you wouldn't be able to use it at all, or it gives you a specific skin that proves that you own it differently than someone else or whatever. Like there's really infinite possibilities. And that's what the great thing is about digital, and that I think a lot of people are sleeping on, is that the utility can always be expanded upon and improved, and new ideas can come up and new technology becomes available, that it's not just, hey, I have this card sitting on my wall that's gathering dust that really can't do much with it all. Like there's always going to be those potential possibilities. And so I think that it's a great point, and it is very exciting.
so freaking exciting, man. You know what else gets me excited is burning fucking NFTs. But I don't know, I don't know like what it's gonna look like. Can like we burn an NFT for like Omi and then like reduce the edition size, or is that like a wild?
So I don't think you'll ever be able to burn the collectibles for Omi specifically, because like the whole thing about like staking and stuff like that, like you will never be able to earn Omi for staking Omi as an example, because it'd be classified as a security. Similarly, like because the token is deflationary, like where does the tokens come from to compensate for you burning that collectible, right? So what they would have to give you is something that does not inherently cost the company or investors any capital. So what it would be is probably MCP points or accessories that Veve, it's non-licensed IP accessories. So something that Veve is generating themselves. Maybe you would earn that, or maybe you get a ticket or a token in order to get early access to a specific drop that or whatever. Like that'll be the types of things that it likely is. And David, you actually threw out an idea in the same Decon London interview that he did a couple of weeks ago, where they're exploring an idea where, let's say you have a big collection and they come out with a like a 1 of 10 or a 1 of 1 like super rare collectible that's never going to be for sale. But if you burn 300 items, then you get one of these automatically. Wow. So then what you would do in this instance is you probably burn the 300 least valuable things that you own. So maybe if you're someone like Dr.Profit or Ray Fixie, like you go out and buy 300 Squirrel Girl common comics and you burn all of those because they're the cheapest, let's say. But now you've reduced that supply of comics by 300, right? So you've actually done a net, you've removed 299 collectibles from ever existing because you get one back from one that they issue. But if you continue to do that over a period of time, it doesn't decrease the value of owning the super scarce item, but it increases the value of all subsequent collectibles because you're burning them, right? And so, and like I said, 300 are the cheapest, but maybe, you know, you need to burn 10 Todds to get a blue Todd. And there's only 500 physical blue Todds that exist in the world. And I own one of them. But there's, so, you know, and there's 5,000 physicals, right? So it's a 10-to-1 ratio. So maybe it wouldn't be 10, but like, just to give you an example, right? Like this is a potential possibility. Now, of course, there are issues with, well, then how does the licensor generate revenue? And, you know, would they be willing to do that? But we've already seen Disney exploring the concept of an airdrop, and they're really the big fish, right? So like if Disney is willing to, and of course, in this case, it's not that you didn't have to pay for it. It was a promo code and whatever, but, you know, we've seen, you know, independent artists. We've even seen Jurassic Park give out an airdrop for a collectible there. So I think as time goes on, these bigger licensed IPs and brands will eventually understand the concept of, yeah, we may not make money from this airdrop, but we're really just encouraging people to buy our IP even more, and we earn secondary royalties and whatever the case may be. So it's just encouraging people to be able to purchase it. So
amazing.
Yeah.
And on top of that, what a great concept, because all the people that, you know, don't have much money are generally going to be the ones holding those collectibles that whales want.
100%.
So it's like a win-win situation. So nobody's going to be actually burning grails then, right? Like, you know, you're not going to see 4,000.
I mean, like, I'll give you a perfect example. Like, I own 4 Walt statues, right? So, like, I could conceivably burn 3 of them. I could burn all of them technically, right? Like, if that was an option available to me. But like, what are you? And this comes back to our conversation from earlier. Like, why am I going to burn a gold brick for a bunch of silver coins, hoping that it's going to become a gold brick one day? Yeah. So, like, if you give me an incentive to do it, and the incentive makes sense, like, let's say it's because I could justify this in my mind, like burning 3 Walts, and that burning 3 Walts gives you, you know, a 1 of 100 collectible. Maybe it makes sense to do it at that time because, you know, 100 is super rare. And what are the chances that there's 100 people that own 3 Walts, right? So like, oh, okay, maybe this is like a thing. And then once the window closes, hey, only 20 of them were minted. Now I own a 1 of 20.
Right.
So like, you know, there's this potential utility that exists, and that just circles back to the conversation we were just having, right? Like it's really infinite, like it's infinite, like the possibilities, and really all it takes is a conversation like this happening, and you know, Noah, Reese, Alex watching it, or a bunch of people in the community go, hey, this is a great idea. They start tagging the team on social media, whatever, and they go, hey, let's explore this, right? Because really the team, like, they're collectors too. They want to add value to the collectability of what you're collecting. So if it fits in with the brand's agenda and it fits in with what Veve can deliver on, I think really anything is a possibility, and it could be really exciting to see.
Wow. Yeah, like you said, the possibilities are infinite, but like, I guess my question to you is like, what could be probable? Because I think this is the thing that, like, you know, we always talk about like these amazing concepts coming down, and I'm like, I always think like, hey, maybe there's the theme park access and Walt gets you in, and like every year I'm taking the family because I only got to pay for the flights, you know. And like I think I'm getting maybe too ahead of myself, but like where do you think it starts? Like we've seen a little
So
bit, right?
yeah, so I mean, yes and no. You're getting ahead of yourself in the sense that we don't have it right now, so it seems unlikely. But I'll give you a perfect example. Club 33 physical membership
Right.
exists with Disney. The major benefit of holding the Club 33 membership is that it allows you to spend more money on other things. Like that's really what I've heard people equate it to that understand it. They're like, it really doesn't give you much other than like access to like certain areas where you're going to spend more money, right? So like when you think about it that way, then you kind of look at it like, is it plausible or conceivable that owning a Walt statue gives you free access to Disney World once a year, let's say, for 4 people, right? Why is that unrealistic? People will look at it and they go, well, why would Disney ever do that? Well, if you sell a Walt statue for $100,000, Disney gets 6.5 grand. How much is it going to cost Disney to have people come into the park by giving them free tickets? I would argue maybe pennies, right? When you think about, yes, they have to pay, electricity, they have a ton of costs. But when you spread it out over the amount of people that are actually paying for those tickets and how expensive those tickets are, it's not costing, like, it's a marketing expense for them. It's nothing. It doesn't cost them anything. But what it does is it allows advertising, because now social media people that hold there, right? Like at this point, maybe I have, doubled my, Twitter followers. Maybe I've doubled my YouTube followers. Now I'm going, hey guys, I own this Walt and I'm doing this. And people that watch Andre's video are watching my channel and they have money because they're interested in personal finance. They invest and they're like, hey, this seems like a good opportunity for me. It's a business expense, for my company, whatever. Like I'll suggest my company, KYB is already in at this point. So know your business. My company is going to buy this and then they're going to use it as like a season ticket pass or whatever, right? Like that to me is not entirely unreasonable. It doesn't cost the company anything, but it's still like I'm still going to go buy snacks when I'm there. I'm still going to go out and buy merchandise when I'm there. Like they're still going to make money. So it doesn't like, so I don't think it's that unrealistic. Now, is it realistic to expect that it's going to happen tomorrow or next month or even next year? Maybe not, but I don't think that it's unrealistic as a whole. And like I said, similar to what we were just talking about, like it's conversations like this that make it realistic, because something doesn't exist until it does. And where does that existence come from? It comes from an idea, right? So if someone has an idea and they think it's good, then great. And and I mean, shout out to Ryan. We started the beta blue
Oh, I saw that.
drop, like the group. Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, like it, and it's great because reaching out to Universal and doing all this, like, will it render any fruit? Like, will we get anywhere with it? Maybe not, probably not actually, but it's the concept of it's a potential possibility. And so, I think that Disney is very much aware of the metaverse and moving into digital. We've seen tons of articles come out about Disney's intention to move into the metaverse and focus on this. So, especially because they're generating royalties, I see absolutely no reason in which they would not want to incentivize the sale of their collectibles. And you also have to remember too, like renting may generate revenue for licensors as well, right? So like there's really no reason for them to not want to add as much utility as possible, because if a Walt does sell for $1 million one day, that's still $65,000 that Disney gets for nothing, which will pay for multiple employees for a year for literally nothing, because they can just add the utility of like I said, free park access and whatever.
Right.
So,
No, it's such an amazing point. And like,
yeah.
on that same token, I saw one of these things happen live. Well, it wasn't me. It was like a story from one of my bosses. He was an executive at Tim Hortons prior to coming to our company. And he was talking about like a young MBA student that basically just said to like, and then they made it like an international thing for all the Tim Hortons, but they just reduced the amount of language in their opening statement. Like if you go to Starbucks as an example, it's really elaborate. And
Yeah,
Tim
yeah.
Hortons, they like reduced it to just be like, "Hi, what would you like?" or something like that. And it supposedly made the company like millions, like tens of millions of dollars just by shortening like the time frame so more cars can go through the drive line, right? And it was just like,
Oh
wow,
wow,
like just
yeah.
a time perspective. And so it's like those like little insignificant things, like you said, you have a bunch of executives on the same topic, like, hey, okay, we want to get some extra funds from our digital assets. Oh, like you said, and then all of a sudden now we're looking at an extra whatever it is, 14.32 million a year, because of this one minor change or this
Yep.
utility that we added. So I think those are great points that you make there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. No, I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, I really think that I mean, I don't think I'm going to get a lifetime pass for free to Disney just because I own a Walt statue. But I think if you look at it from a realistic perspective, you actually start to realize that like this is actually very possible. So yeah, it's exciting.
So why not market them? Like why, like, Sean's from Comics and Crypto always says, like, it's because the walls aren't up yet in the house. Like we're waiting for all the house to be finished and then, like, watch out for the marketing. But do you think there's another reason why maybe like Disney doesn't like tweet out every single time that Veve has a drop? Like,
Yeah, no, it's kind of a twofold answer. One, I would say like we have Toys R Us. I don't know if Toys R Us is in the US. Is it? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Okay, so for those of you guys that don't know what Toys R Us is, it's like a giant toy store, as it sounds, right? You know, Pokemon cards are sold in Toys R Us, but if Pokemon has cards at Toys R Us, you don't see them tweeting out about the fact that you should go buy them at Toys R Us, right? So like at the end of the day, Veve is a platform in which licensors are selling their items. Veve is really just the vehicle, right? So like, yes, they want to promote, hey, we're selling our stuff here. But once again, if the items are selling out in a fraction of a second regardless, and they're still earning secondary revenue, like what is the benefit? Because all you're doing is you're bringing more people into an app that isn't factored completely yet, still has a lot of issues with how they're onboarding users, still issues with cashing out from time to time, still issues with bots, and it's not perfect, and that's totally okay. But at the same time, like, what are you like? And once again, I'll use this as an example because I've already mentioned Pokemon, and still not a confirmation that Pokemon's coming because I would never know that. If Veve was to announce Pokemon right now, what would it do to the platform? It would break it realistically. Like, like Veve cannot handle that influx. All the collectible prices would drop. They would just crater. And like, it would be a shit show for lack of a better word. Right. So it's like move when you're ready to move, but build a foundation that you can move on. Like you got to learn to walk before you run. And realistically, like that's all that the last year and a half has been, is it's building out the foundation. And I know people don't like to hear it because they just want the shiny thing. And they're like, yes, like this, but like realistically, like you need cash out. Why is any platform going to promote anything if your money's stuck on the platform? We need OMI utility. And that's more of a Veve specific thing. Licensors probably don't care about that as much, but we need OMI utility. We need master collector because we are in a digital space and you do need to give people a reason to hold things, and metadata to prove that you actually own them. And then interoperability would probably be the last thing. So those 5 things, you need those in order to have a fully functional and successful platform. The Veveverse and all that stuff will come afterwards, and they're also important. But realistically, that foundation needs to be in place. So I believe that the marketing and everything that's coming will be quote unquote hashtag soon. And I know people hate hearing that, like, oh, like they've been saying they're going to do this for, this amount of time and everything. But like realistically, like if you actually take a step back and think about it, like it wouldn't make sense right now. What are you marketing to? Like, I guess you want the rest of the Star Trek drop to sell out, but like it's not that popular and that's totally okay. And like other than that, like what are you hoping that people are going to come on and do right now? Like come on the platform, oh, this is cool. I buy this collectible. Oh, what do I do with it? Oh, I don't know. Like, okay, cool. I saw it in AR for a bit. Oh, I don't really earn anything with it. When's the next drop? 4 days. Oh, okay, I'll come back. Like that's really all that the app is right now. So you market when you have something to market. And I think that the organic marketing that's taking place right now is a big part of why Veve doesn't have to do their own marketing right now. And I will pat every content creator on the shoulder for that, because everyone plays a role in getting that information out to people. And like I said, not just people that are already within the community, but the connections that we have, the Lewises, the Andres, the Paul Barons, like all of those people that can disseminate it to the greater kind of crypto space, to get people to come into the platform. Like we don't really need a bunch of marketing right now. Yes, it would temporarily pump prices of collectibles and whatever. And like, that's great. But like long term, it's not going to do anything to the platform. We need 1 or 2 major marketing runs with a big drop or IP, like similarly to how Logan Paul and KSI partnered with Prime Hydration and they became the official partner of Arsenal and they did a whole marketing thing. Like we need something like that where Veve has a partnership where they can really put it out globally, and whether that is with Disney in the parks, maybe there's an exclusive NFT collection that comes out in the parks. We've seen parks, utilities, and experiences come out recently within the most recent drops. Maybe they do something like that, and that's where you really start to see that push. Same thing where Disney Plus has about 130 million monthly subscribers. You get a push out on there where you watch the video and then it redirects you at the end of Veve to buy the collectible or something like those are the types of things that won't take a lot from these major IPs and it'll just completely blow the floodgates open. We just want to make sure that we're in a position when that happens that we're prepared for it, and also like kind of selfishly, like it does give you a little bit longer to load up your bags, and like I don't think that that's a terrible thing for anyone that's here right now. So
wow. If you do not feel calm, cool, and collected after hearing Foster speak, I don't know what else can help you. I mean, I don't know, man. I feel even more bullish than ever before, and I feel like with the conviction that you have here, and like the feeling that I get after this interview is like, man, this could be like the best kept secret for the time being. And it's like kind of reminds me of Pokemon collecting. And I always say this, but in 2006, they had like little to no interest, and they made all these really scarce print runs. And like some of those cards now, because obviously it's gone haywire, are worth like anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000, and like the booster boxers are, some of them are over 100K. And so it's just like that's kind of, again, and I'm not trying to this is not financial advice, of course, but I just think like I think everything that you kind of said today, man, made perfect sense. And I feel like completely almost like refreshed. So I hope everybody kind of feels that too. And like I said, man, this guy is so intelligent. So, if you haven't subscribed to Foster yet and you do not follow him on Twitter, go and do that now. All his links and everything will be in the description below. And Foster, I'll give you the final words, man. Anything else that you want to say to everybody?
I just wanted to thank you once again for reaching out to me. I don't do these types of things super often. My content is normally like Excel spreadsheets and kind of in the lab, I guess in the bat cave, if you will. And so it's really nice to be able to have these conversations. And it really, sometimes even when I start thinking about things or like I'll hear someone else say something, it's really great to be able to have these conversations with like-minded people and really start to understand where others are coming from, and social media sometimes can be an echo chamber where you'll hear people saying things and it'll get you really excited or it'll bring you down, but I think it really helps to take a step back and just kind of remind yourself of like where we've come from, where we are now, and where we're hoping to go. And I always look at it, and you mentioned it earlier in the interview as well, like what has changed from the fundamentals from our all-time high in February to where we are now. If the fundamentals are still the same and it's just external catalysts like global recessions and things like that that are changing it, then this is really the best opportunity for you, right? And similarly, it's funny because we always say this, Chad, like not financial advice, and it's really not. Like we just document our journeys and the decisions that we're making, and hopefully you find some value in it and you're able to benefit from it. But at the same time, we're all learning together and going through this journey, and I just really am grateful to be going through it with a bunch of people that have supported me and allowed me to have the platform that I do have and meet people like you in the process. So hopefully we can do it again at some point and look back on some of the things that we said, and either they come to fruition and we get to be really excited about it, or we look back and go facepalm. So we'll see what happens. But thank you again for giving me this opportunity to speak, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Man, thank you so much, dude. Like I said, it's a big pleasure for me to have you on as well. I was always like kind of keen to get you on here, so it's really cool to like pick your brain. And I don't know, a lot of these questions I've been asking a lot of people for a long time, and nobody's been able to answer them like you did. So I feel good. I feel like a lot better now because I feel like I actually got to get some of the answers that I was looking for. So I really appreciate you coming on, and like I'd be thrilled to have you on again soon.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Take care, buddy.
Take care.